I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host. I'm Cynthia James, and I'm excited about and honored to introduce you to women that are change makers, women that are strong and powerful and have stepped out in ways that are showing the way to all of us, right? So each one of these women inspires me, and I know they will inspire you as well. I want you to know that we do this podcast every week, and you can find us on Spotify and iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, and YouTube. Please subscribe and come back every week. Meet a woman that can show you that nothing is impossible. So today, my guest is Lauren Artress. She is the founder of Veriditas, and she is the author of Walking a Sacred Path, Rediscovering the Labyrinth as a Spiritual Tool, also the Sand Labyrinth Kit, and the Sacred Path Companion, a guide to walking the labyrinth to heal and transform. Her latest book is called The Path of the Holy Fool, How the Labyrinth Ignites Our Visionary Powers. So Lauren is a priest of the Episcopal Church, and her home church is Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. From 1986 to 1992, she served as Canon Pastor, and then as Canon for Special Ministries until August in 2004. In May of 2006, her rediscovery of the labyrinth was honored by Grace Cathedral, and she was designated Honorary Canon, a lifetime title. So in 1991, while on a brief sabbatical, she walked a labyrinth and connected to the work of Jean Houston, and that opened up a whole nother path for her, right? In 1995, she created the nonprofit Veriditas as a 501c3 with the initial vision of peppering the planet with labyrinths. Well, I'm extraordinarily grateful to have her here because I got to play with her in Chartres, France. I got to bring a group and have her guide us, support us, and facilitate us. And I just want you to know, life-changing. Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a delight, Cynthia. It's really a delight. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about the labyrinth. But before we drop into that place, I just want to go, where were you born and how did you grow up?
Well, let's see. I was born outside of Cleveland, the east side of Cleveland, in a lovely kind of out of the way, no sidewalks, only well water kind of place called Willoughby Hills, and those at that time. And we were out in the country, and nature was really my place of solace and fun and pleasure and mystery. And so I really felt very lucky to be out. And the biggest town was about 4 miles away. And later on, riding your bike in and meeting some friends who were in junior high at that point. We always had animals. We had one horse at a time, but we did have a horse. And, it was really helpful for me to be able to have that kind of freedom that I'm so worried that our young people nowadays don't have, where you can walk, you feel safe, you're out in nature, you know you're taken care of. And it was really helpful for me later on, because that's certainly still a place of solace and solitude is in nature.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Okay, so I want to know how you go from there to being an Episcopal priest. Because I'm sure you weren't walking through nature going, I think I'll be a priest.
You're absolutely right on that one. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's quite a journey. I think that I just was following my intuition and feeling like It's a long way. I mean, you're asking for a long way there, because I felt that I didn't have the right things. I mean, I went to college, and that was the worst chapter of my life. I I had music, and I had a lot of athletic ability and sports and all of that. So I studied physical education, wrong avenue. So slowly I segued into psychology, and then focused on special education, which was working with people who are developmentally challenged, physically challenged. And so then that started my interest in people and how was this? How do people tick kind of feeling? So I really feel like I missed the boat in college, that's for sure. And then, had some kind of mountaintop experiences, which I hope everybody has, and doesn't ignore them that way. And that's what sent me to seminary. Just off, okay, I'll go off. And I went to Princeton Theological Seminary only because I was seeing someone on the Ohio State campus where I was, who kind of made the suggestion and, helped me think about it that way. So that was sort of the beginning of it. I, of course, went to seminary saying I'm not going to be ordained. Who wants to be ordained?
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Not be ordained, and I am not going to be in the church. That's not happening.
I was saying the same thing, kind of being dragged that way, right? I mean, look at both of us have been through the church process and out the other side, right? But very informative. I mean, I think we have to give credit that, for me, Grace Cathedral, like you, speaking and preaching to 700-800 people or more in Mile High Church, it really was formative. And your acting gave you a lot of those skills too. I didn't have that as much. But for me, it was, I've seen my priesthood, you are a priest forever, but in the Episcopal Church, that's a phrase people use. But it really was something that was helpful for me. And then passing through to find the labyrinth, I really feel, Cynthia, it was all designed.
Yeah. So I want to get to the labyrinth, but I want to talk about mountaintop experiences, because a lot of us have awakenings or mystical kind of things, and we don't necessarily honor them because we think, oh, that was just an accident, or, oh, I'm not really being called to this. It's my mind making it up. And so I want to talk about your obedience to it, because something in you said, okay, something powerful has happened here. And when you were talking to the person at your university, you were listening to what they said, which had you take a step. So can we talk about those for a moment?
Yeah, I think you're right in pointing that out. I agree. A lot of people dismiss any kind of mountaintop experience, and I think maybe people think they're frightening, or that they're, oh my God, this is going to change my life so much that I can't possibly do that, which of course it is true that changes your life that much. I think you have to be available. And I was kind of lost and not certain what I was going to do after college. I, as I mentioned, really feel like I missed the boat there. I think now if I were in college, I'd be studying journalism or some kind of communications work, creative writing. I didn't know myself well enough. And the mountaintop experience really started clarifying, okay, but that availability, like, oh, all right. And I was at that point talking with a pastoral counselor, in which, I wear that hat as well as a psychotherapist and a pastoral counselor. And yeah, I guess it's just availability and then trusting, trusting. And why aren't we important enough to be spoken to be given guidance, to be given help?
Well, yeah. And, I tell people all the time, you came with that encoded in you, an intuitive knowing, a divine counselor that lives within you. Learning to listen to it is the work. And so that I want to take us to the labyrinth, because I want to ask how you discovered the labyrinth and the power of it, because my first time walking a labyrinth, I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but there's something powerful happening here.
Yeah, that is so true. For me, Jean Houston, I certainly credit with introducing me to the labyrinth. She uses it quite differently, and it was just a taped one on a conference center floor. Her team kind of taped, and also a full scale, Chartres labyrinth, not without the lunations and the petals in the center, but still very powerful. And I happened to be at Grace Cathedral. It was at the end of the beginning, let's put it that way. The end of the beginning of the AIDS crisis, moving into the epidemic. And I was burnt out, Cynthia. I was just like, okay, I got to get out of here. And by that time, 1991, about 3 years of setting up programs, dealing with death, the worried well, the parents coming into San Francisco with such saddened hearts. And it was really a very painful time. And so I was planning to leave. I was planning to leave the cathedral. And I worked with Jean Houston in 1985 for her one of her mystery school years. It's a year cycle. And so I just called Jean and said, hey, I'd love to come back and just visit the mystery school. And she's always generous. And she, come on, yeah, come on. So I went from San Francisco back to Port Jarvis, New Jersey area where the conference center was. And that's when we walked the labyrinth. She presented it, and so I had that same feeling, like, I don't know what's going on here, but this is just wonderful. They had it music reinforced, and I stayed late in the evening when the other people cleared. And I didn't know quite what it was and why, but I just did that. And so I had a dream that night. I talk about this in Walking the Sacred Path, that the whole feeling of something's shifted, a major, major shift. And so it was powerful enough to send me to Chartres Cathedral. And I did know that it had been closed for about 250 years, the labyrinth, not the cathedral. The labyrinth had been under chairs and forgotten, and, kind of, made degraded. Oh, what is this thing, this crazy, medieval old thing. And then so we went and moved the chairs. We meaning the dean of the Grace Cathedral and his wife and 2 other congregants and another friend on the board of trustees. And we moved the chairs and walked it. And at that point, about 25 other people in the cathedral walked it. And so then it was just really, and it was a very powerful experience for everyone. And I describe it in Walking a Sacred Path, like it felt to me so wonderfully. It felt to me like someone had taken stardust and just tossed it into the air.
Wow. Yeah, it's really funny because going there and being with you and having that private walk. I mean, you could feel the magic. You could feel the magic and the mystery that was there. And it was interesting to me because here we are with you, and we're having this really deep connection to the labyrinth. And then when they open it up to the public, some people don't even know what it is. They walk across it, they're clueless. And then there's other people that are like, that they know, and they're in it having that experience. And so I want to know, how did you talk the cathedral into letting you come and bring people to have these amazing experiences.
You mean at Chartres Cathedral now, right?
Yeah.
Because there's also Grace Cathedral.
I knew you would, yeah,
You know,
right.
but there's just the timing of it. So in Chartres, again, all arranged. I went in 91, 92, 93, and 94 and knocked on the door literally, and no one answered. So we were there in Chartres, and we had some tours there, but never any connection with the cathedral. And then knocking on the door in 95, and here's this Francois Legault. He just passed this year. He was wonderful. He was the new dean of the cathedral, and a wonderful kind of roly-poly Roman Catholic priest. And we befriended him. He loved Americans because of the Second World War, the freedom of freeing Paris and all of that. And so, again, he just opened the doors to us, literally. I mean, literally. And then we planned and sat down in a meeting. This includes the Dean of Grace Cathedral as well. Planned that for the month of May, and in Chartres and in France, there's 13 holidays in May, all to the Virgin Mary, the month of May. And so May was a perfect time that we were there on site a whole month. I can't believe how we did that with our energy levels and all that. And then that opened the door, and he began to open the labyrinth, which he had vowed he would not open earlier on. We also had him over at San Francisco, wined and dined him. He loved to cook. He was a chef, so he made a big roast duck dinner. And, it was all, Cynthia, it just felt all guided, directed, door after door opened. And then at Grace Cathedral, to establish the labyrinth, we started in canvas. And again, the doors open. Natalie Angiers from the New York Times comes and write an article on the purple painted path for peace. And again, that saved my job, because the trustees were saying, now what is she doing? Now, she does the overnight for the Women's Dream Quest, which still happens at Grace Cathedral. We did Singing for Your Life, but with Bobby McFerrin, the 24-hour New Year's event. And now what's she doing? And so anyway, the article saved my job. and then things kept unfolding. But when I arrived at Grace Cathedral, I got a large grant, $285,000 from Lawrence Rockefeller. And that came my way. I didn't initiate it. And green light after green light after green light, just keep going.
Yeah, because what I'm hearing though is that you are called, you listened, and then the universe just kept showing up.
Yeah.
To light the path for you to do this. So, okay, what is the path of the holy food?
I think I just described it.
That was it.
I think I just described it in a way. And there's lots of holy fools. I mean, I hope that my latest book helps people see that you're a holy fool. Come on, you can say
100%. 100%. I have heard many times, what is she doing now? So yes.
Yeah, right. And you don't identify with your failures. You just keep, and that's the lesson with the labyrinth. Don't forget, I had this wonderful tool in my life. And what kind of tool? A blueprint of transformation, really. And so anytime that I was doubtful or upset or didn't know what I was going to write and how is the chapter going to organize itself, I just went to the labyrinth. And if I was doubtful, all I heard was, keep going.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful you kept going. I'm so grateful that Veriditas is here and that there are labyrinths now as a result of the work that you do around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And people that you have trained to be facilitators, to respect the sacredness of the labyrinth.
Yeah. It's been a true privilege. every bit of this work, and I'm still doing it. I'm in my mid-70s and I'm still doing it because it's such a privilege, and I'm able to do it. And that's why we're going to Chartres still and doing program over there. So it's truly, I'm glad I listened, and I want to encourage your listeners to listen to that little, still, small voice, because it is there. And it's not heard the first time, it comes around again.
That's right. And sometimes it gets loud in interesting ways.
Is there a story there?
Well, yeah, I in my life, I've heard stuff and then I ignored it, and I've heard stuff, and then eventually there's kind of like a spiritual 2x4 that sits me down and goes, now will you listen? I'm talking to you, right? So yeah. Okay, I want to know, how do people find you? How do they find your work? How do they hear about your trips?
Okay, all right. Let's see. I have a website if people want to start there, but I would encourage people, if people have a pen and pencil there or something in front of them, Veriditas. So and I have it, that's why I have it in my name here, veriditas.org. And there's lots of information on the labyrinth there, how to walk it, how to find them. The labyrinth locator is there. And then also there's on the menu programs in Chartres.
Beautiful. And your books, are they there too, or do they go to your
Yes,
website?
they're there too. They're on Amazon, but you can get them through the website for sure. And next year we're planning to be in Chartres in early June. And so we're having folks, Heather Pratt will be with us. I don't know if you know her book, Holding Space, The Art of Holding Space. And so it just keeps unfolding, Cynthia, and you know how that is, because that's what's true about your work. I
totally do. And the word gratitude fills me too, just like you. Mm-hmm. So I asked my guests the same last question. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet at this moment?
I think for women to realize their power, to step into it. And now we have a really obvious thing, and I hope this is okay to say, is with our rights taken away from Roe v.s. Wade being written out of the law. Step forward, everyone, every woman, and gentle-hearted, conscious men have to step forward. So that's really the obvious thing that's been tossed in our way. But I think stepping forward means trusting that still small voice, not risking that you may look crazy or someone doesn't understand. That does not matter. What matters is step forward and trust that your power and your guidance will come through.
I love that, Lauren. And you are such a beautiful example of continue to step forward. And you teach all of us. I mean, for me, walking the labyrinth is a metaphor for that. Step forward, So thank you for being here. Thank you for your consciousness. Thank you for your gifts. I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm grateful to know you as well.
So ladies, you heard what she said, step forward. So I'm going to tell you the same thing I say to you at the end of every episode. Now is your time. You need not wait for anyone or anything. You've come here to be powerful, dynamic, mighty, magnificent. It is encoded in your DNA. So whatever that calling is, whatever the still small voice is saying to you, listen and be obedient, because the time is now. I'm grateful to serve you, and I will see you soon. Blessings.